Okay, so here are 5 reasons why you might want to live in a tiny car like this. So the first obvious reason I think is dramatically reduced costs. So although I still obviously pay road tax and MOT and fuel and council tax because the vehicle's registered at house where my mum's living, so you still have to pay some obvious costs, but you don't have things like standing charges and those kind of bills. So you know, I just buy water from Co-op and gas from Hearst's in town, Inventor on the Isle of Wight, but you don't have the standing kind of costs of the physical infrastructure. So that's one obvious cost, is dramatically reduced. One obvious benefit is dramatically reduced costs of living in a tiny car like this. Now I do have an accompanying video which outlines 5 obvious reasons why you absolutely shouldn't live in a tiny car like this. This particular video though deals with the reasons why you might think you should. So with those reduced costs, that just gives you greater freedom to greater flexibility in life. So I'm currently working on building up some little side hustles, book writing and video content creation, potentially some course creation stuff, which I've already done for a university, and I might be doing some of that on places like Udemy and Teachable, those kind of online platforms. So it does give you, because you've massively reduced your costs of living, it means you don't need to work as many hours to get by basically, which gives you freedom to start your own business, start your own side hustle. And in my case, that's writing books and video creation primarily. So yeah, so that's the first reason. Greatly reduce costs, and allied with that, therefore greatly increase flexibility in terms of your lifestyle. Now the second benefit I'm going to give is just the sounds of nature, being out in nature. So you can presumably hear the bird song. I'm just using the phone's microphone, but you can probably hear the bird song here, and that's just magic in the morning at dawn, being woken up by bleeding birds singing away. Never get any sleep at all. Wrens in particular are incredibly loud, and you get woken up by them at 4 in the morning. It's a real treat, I promise. Slight sarcasm in my voice. And the sound of rain on the roof as well of this little car, I mean, it's definitely not a van. Little car is just, yeah, I just absolutely love that. I love being out in nature, and being in a vehicle like this just takes you one step closer relative to living in a brick-built vehicle. And because I love nature, because I love bird watching and just nature in general, that's how I want to live basically, is as close to nature as I can be. Obviously in a more conventional house you can also have a garden, and you can live close to nature that way as well, but I just love being able to be right in the midst of it, as I am in this tiny little car. So hearing the sounds of nature is, because of the very thin walls of the car, is one of the great benefits, I think. Yes, like I said, one of the obvious benefits of living in a car is you're out in nature. Rain or shine. So a third good reason for living in a car is you can literally live anywhere. So I choose to live as much as I can by the sea. So I'm currently on the Isle of Wight, and I'm never far from the sea on the Isle of Wight. I'd otherwise be down in Cornwall probably, usually in Falmouth or otherwise Newquay. Spend a lot of time in Falmouth because of university, but otherwise I'm often in Newquay. But yeah, you can live by the sea anywhere, or you can live in a town or out in the countryside. You have that choice of wherever you basically want to park your car. That is your home. And I choose to live kind of in southern England, but I could equally live up in Scotland. A bit more tricky over the winter, but people do that, or in Wales, or head over into Ireland, or I can do a road trip into Europe. Less easy now because of Brexit and the passport situation, but yeah, basically it gives you great flexibility to choose where you basically locate yourself. Now, although I call myself a bit of a digital nomad, I'm not really, because I'm always in one place. Generally speaking, I don't travel very much in the car. I normally just hang around the undercliff of the Isle of Wight, or like I say in Falmouth or Newquay in Cornwall. But other people who live in vehicles, in vans or cars, are much more mobile than I am. They'll travel around the country, earning money on the road basically. But it does give you that flexibility to choose where in the country, or where in Europe, or in America, wherever you happen to be, where you want to be from one day to the next. So that's the third benefit of living in a vehicle, in a car or a van. So another really good reason, I think, what are we? Reason number 4 for living in a car or a van is that you can't have a load of stuff. So when I was living in a more conventional circumstances in a house, before 2018 or up to 2018, I'd obviously accumulated a huge amount of junk, basically furniture and books in particular. I had a massive book collection, physical book collection, shelves and shelves of kind of non-fiction books on natural history and, well, mainly natural history. And I just don't have the space for those now, obviously. So I got rid of all the books. I donated them all to students at Exeter University, which was a great relief. So it gives you a huge kind of, well, it just relieves the stress and the tension of just having loads and loads of stuff and having to have a kind of a space to keep it all, which is basically what you're paying rent for or a mortgage for, is just a ever bigger space to keep ever more accumulated stuff in. I can't do that now. I don't have any storage apart from my second van. Obviously I've still got the van, which is stranded because the engine doesn't work anymore, and I'm using that to store a few bits and pieces in, like the seats from the car that I've just converted. But that is my only storage, my only means of storage. So yeah, you just find that when you declutter and you minimise, so I'm quite a minimalist, when you do that, when you declutter and get rid of all the stuff you've accumulated over the years, it just gives a huge sense of relief and kind of I find myself much more relaxed now that I just don't have loads of stuff. Don't have loads of rooms to clean and loads of kind of the need to keep a house to store everything in. So that's reason number 4. You just get rid of all the clutter that you accumulate over time. So the 5th and final benefit that I'm going to mention here of living on 4 wheels, either in a van or in my case in a car, is a slightly odd one, and that's fresh air. So and clean air. So I've not had a cold. Well, I've had very few colds since 2018 when I first moved into my Berlingo. So I used to get regular colds every year. I'd get a cold several a year really, and just since then it's just not happened. So I've had COVID once, more, when was that? Was that late last year? I can't remember now. We're in 2014 now, so apart from that obvious bout of COVID, which was pretty nasty, I just haven't been getting colds since I moved into the vehicle. I can't imagine that's old age. I think that is because of the cleaner air in the vehicle. So, in houses the air tends to be stagnant and circulates round and round and round the house, basically between rooms, and obviously there tends to be other people living there, so that spreads germs as well. Although I do work in cafes all the time, every day, but even so, I just haven't been getting colds since I moved into the van. I'm pretty sure that is because of the cleaner circulating air. It's just not a stagnant air sitting in a room, basically. What a cracking view over Ventnor towards St Boniface down up there and Coombe Bottom. But anyway, yeah, so, and obviously I'm outside a lot more than I would be if I was living in a house. So, living in a car, I don't go back and just slump in front of the TV and watch box sets. Although what I do is go back to the car later in the evening once it gets cold, once it gets dark, and watch Amazon Prime, The Blacklist at the moment. Things like that. So I do go back to the vehicle after it gets dark and just sit in there. So anyway, yeah, that's the final benefit of living in a vehicle. In my case, the car is just feels healthier to me. There are drawbacks in terms of health, which I'll come to in the next video, which will be 5 or more drawbacks and cons of living in a vehicle. But yeah, tell me if you can think of any benefits that I've missed here. I'm sure there are plenty. I was actually struggling to think of more than 5. But yeah, so the rain is about to arrive. It's one of the disbenefits is when it starts to rain, you have to go back to a small vehicle. But anyway, or you can go to a cafe, but then you have to spend money. So yeah, have a lovely afternoon, everybody. It's about 4:30 now, I suppose. So I'm going to head down back into Ventnor Bay, and when the rain starts, I'll probably either go into the car or go to a cafe or pub.